I want to start with that quote that you said your wife said, and it was, the people who make it are either starting their own businesses or committing crimes. And it was,
Well, no,
I think,
I said the part about committing crimes. She said that they need to own something, but I think it's one or the other. But go ahead. Sorry to interrupt. And I can't trust just anybody to supervise my child. He was the most proud about two things. He said, one, we have zero debt on the books. We owe nothing to nobody. We don't owe a thing to anybody. So we are accountable to ourselves and only ourselves. And we'll make decisions for ourselves, not because we have to have money to pay these people that we owe. So that was one. I was like, okay. And he said, the second thing is, I hire people that are good ethically and then happen to be good at their jobs.
power and autonomy over your own destiny, right?
Correct. We would expect no less. Like, we're not going to give you crappy quality. We're not looking to make a couple dollars because we're giving you, like, some frozen burgers from the supermarket.
Greetings, beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of the Melanated Married Millionaires in the Making. If you have ever thought about owning a restaurant, if you and your significant other or you by yourself are great in the kitchen, people always tell you you need to open up a barbecue spot, a soul food spot, a Creole with the best po' boys in town, or maybe even a burger joint. This episode is for you.
Welcome to another episode of the Melanated Married Millionaires in the Making show, aka the M4 show. King, where can they tap in with us?
Y'all can tap in with us at www.them4show.com. Also tap in with us on Instagram at the M4 show. If you got topics that you want to see, hit us in the DMs. We appreciate you.
Now let's get into the episode.
Today, joining us, we got Marc Warner, previously from California, but he moved out to the East Coast to open up the juiciest burger spot in Jersey. We're talking about Bovine out on the East Coast. If you're in the area, make sure y'all check out Bovine Burgers and get you a juicy burger made with a unique tri-blend of high quality Angus beef. We're going to go through how he decided to leave his 9-to-5 and start this restaurant with his queen, how they grew their business to be, again, the juiciest burgers in Jersey, and, a couple lessons they learned along the way. Make sure y'all stay tapped in. And of course, put your questions inside of the comments. Now, help me welcome Marc Warner from Bovine. Marc, welcome to the show.
What's up? The way you described it made me want to go get a burger right now. Damn, and I own the place.
Look, I was scrolling through like, ooh, that looks good. Ooh, that one looks good. I was getting hungry just going through the menu.
Nice. Then it worked as intended then.
Yeah. So let's start off. This wasn't going to be the first question, but I'm hungry now. What's your favorite burger on the menu?
Oh man, that's like, which child do you love the most? You can't do that.
There's always an answer.
Yeah, well,
there's always an answer. But for me, I was scrolling through and I saw that urban cowboy.
Mm-hmm,
that looked good. I also saw the bovine melt. I like cheese, so that one was talking to me.
Oh, yes. Well, look, I grew up on patty melts out in California. So when I opened the place, and I shouldn't say when my wife and I opened the place, I did say, like, a melt has to be on the menu. And that was not something. She's from New York, upstate New York. Okay. So I don't think she's ever experienced a patty melt before. Maybe she had, but it wasn't until we opened up and she tried one that she was like, ooh, these are good. And she was addicted for a while. So depending on, probably have to say either the bovine melt or the Diablo burger are my two favorites.
Nice.
Yeah.
And, I feel like a lot of folks aren't going to know this, but apparently you go way back with the Walker Kingdom, with the Walker family over here. All right. So before we even hop into, of course, we're going to talk about your love journey. We're going to talk about the journey of Bovine. But how do we even come in within the same orbit of each other, Marc? Tell the folks how you met my father back in the day.
Your knucklehead father. Yeah. Delton and I have been friends since I can't, it's almost like I can't remember a time that I didn't know Delton. Way back in the day, we'd be playing in my garage like army men and setting up bases in there and like messing each other up or whatever. And then, then we got into sports. He got into football for a while, but always basketball. And that's what we would play all the time, it seemed like. And so his nickname was the Freak Machine. And my nickname was Twisto Flex because I would just contort myself all around to like make shots, and he was actually really talented. And we went to basketball camp together. We went to we went to Magic Johnson's basketball camp. I think we went together to Jamal Wilkes basketball camp too. Maybe not. I can't remember. But basketball was like really central for our friendship. And then hanging out actually, and it kind of brings it back to topic. And actually hanging out at this place called the Golden Ox in California, where we lived, where they had some slamming patty melts, and we played video games and eat patty melts and drink strawberry shakes. But in all seriousness, like I've known the Walkers most of my life, which is really crazy. And at 50-some years old, that's a long time.
Right. And I love the fact that y'all are still connected over this 30, 40 years of childhood, of manhood, of becoming husbands. Like y'all are still connected. And it comes full circle where I think he was visiting my little brother out in New York. And he was like, oh, well, my old friend Marc is over here. Let me go ahead and slide through New Jersey, visit in person. And then he was like, Devon, you have to meet Marc. He has to be on your podcast. These burgers are amazing. The business acumen is high. Like he would be such a value to you and to your audience. So love to see that full circle loop. So Bovine, all right. Talk to us. How did you and your queen come up with the amazing dream of Bovine?
So it's funny. It started at a neighbor's kid's birthday party, like that we've gone to way too many times. And I'm sorry, they're boring. Even for your own kids, sometimes they're boring. But whatever. So our kids were there with the birthday girl or birthday boy, I can't remember, and they were all playing. So my wife and I had some time alone. So the neighbors actually had a hammock on their front porch. So we just like left the backyard, laid in that hammock. We were just hanging out. It was just nice to relax and not think about anything because someone else was watching the kids for once. And I know we just started talking. And I was at a point where I was thinking about leaving my job, my 9-to-5, which was really more like 8 to 8, if we're being honest, in the city. I was in charge of marketing. I was the head of marketing for a very large health insurance company, and been doing marketing for a long time. And we were just talking about whether I should just do this again somewhere else, or maybe we should do something for ourselves. And my wife, she's very wise, and she said, the people who really make it are the ones that own something. Like you can have a great job, and don't get me wrong, you can have a great job working for a company, small, large, whatever, and that's great. You can feel very fulfilled. But it seems like the only two ways that you actually become like a raging success is either to own something or commit a crime, and maybe a little bit of both. Hey, and some of the richest people, like in America's history, like they're great businessmen now, but when you look back, a little bit of criminality in the beginning, but whatever, then you let that slide. Anyway, I'm getting off topic, but we did think about it. And so we thought about maybe opening a burger place, because a long time ago we had a lunch party, with a bunch of friends over, and they said, you guys should open up a place. Well, Marc, they said to me, you should open a place where you serve burgers and lemon meringue pie, because that's what I served. I made burgers on the grill and lemon meringue pie. And then, as time had gone on, I was grinding my own meat and stuff. And, so we were like, why don't we open a burger place? And we laughed about it. It was a joke. And then we were like, well, we could look into what equipment costs, and that's funny. But then we actually did. And then we're like, well, how will we finance this? That's crazy. Where are we gonna get the money? And I looked into the financing structure that we use called a ROBS, which we can talk about later if you want to roll over as business startup. And then we were like, oh, well, where will we put this? And I was like, well, there is a place next to the barber shop where our son gets his hair cut. And it's like, that's funny. Can you imagine opening there? And that's where we are today. So it was a joke that it was funny up until, oh my God, we actually did it. So that's where we are.
There's so many lessons right there. I want to start with that quote that you said your wife said, and it was, the people who make it are either starting their own businesses or committing crimes. And it was,
I said the part about committing crimes. She said that they need to own something, but I think it's one or the other. But go ahead. Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries. So the fact that if you want to make it, you got to own something. What did making it look like to you, right? Because you said you were a marketing executive working for, a top company. Not sure what your wife was doing at the time, but it seemed like y'all were both, quote unquote, making it, right? Decent living. but what was that next level of making it that you wanted to achieve through ownership?
Well, that's the thing. Like I mean, she's, and funny thing is she still works that job.
Okay.
She's a full-time clinical social worker at a school, at a high school. She does an amazing job. She does that and she works on the business. I do consulting. I also have a startup company, but that's a whole nother another story. And I do work for Bovine too. So we both have lots of irons in the fire, as it were. But to make that transition, I'm sorry, what was the question again? I lost track.
Yeah, the question is, what when you looked at, we want to make it, what did making it look like that you weren't seeing in your normal 9-to-5 job that you wanted to achieve through ownership?
Thank you. I'm, the brain, a little addle-minded in the old age.
You need
making
some
it
protein. That's what it is. You need a
that's true.
to get that brain working. That's what it is.
Let's wrap this up so I can go get one. Making it, to me, it wasn't necessarily about financial. It was about autonomy. It was about controlling my own destiny. Because the company where I was, I was there for 14 years total, actually 2 7-year stints, but never mind that. But 14 years, I was well established. I did good work. There was a change in who the CEO was. I won't say I was tight with the CEO, but I was trusted by the CEO. There were things that I did that I don't think he would have let anyone else try. But based on my track record with him, he did. When the new CEO came in, it started off great, but I could see handwriting on the wall. And to this point, it was like, I'm at the mercy of this company or whoever's in charge of this company at any time that, Marc, your services are no longer required. And then what? After all the dedication and work that I put in, you have no obligation to me at all, which is why I decided to be proactive. I relied on my gut. Like, there was no one pushing me out. There was no one saying no, but my gut said that this is probably not the best situation for me. And making it, to me, was not having anyone who could tell me I don't need your services anymore.
That's good.
That's what making it was. Now, making some money would be nice too.
Right.
But the fact that as of today, my wife and I, when it comes to this business, we are accountable to no one but each other, and the bills we have to pay, every day. The money that goes out the door. But those are vendors that work for us. Those are suppliers that work for us, and we pay them, and I owe them that money. But otherwise, my wife and I call the shots, and that's it. And there is value in that, and so that in part is making it.
Love it, love it. Power and autonomy over your own destiny, right?
Correct. Yes.
Something that I'm interested in knowing is both of y'all had, at least from my outside perspective, no restaurant experience prior to opening Bovine, but you were just like, hey, we got $1, we got a dream, we got each other, let's do it. How steep was that restaurant owning learning curve? Like, in learning all the different permits, licenses, policies, restaurant card holder, food handlers permit, all the things that go, like, how steep and difficult is it to go from zero experience to opening up your own restaurant?
It's daunting. And that's probably an understatement. And I'll tell you what, we were probably very naive in thinking that we had this all under control. And in fact, there are many times when both of us, but I'll just say for myself, if I knew then what I know now, we maybe would not have opened it and just said, you know what, I'll get another 9-to-5. But once you're in it, you're sort of in it. And neither of us, I was going to say neither of us are quitters, but I'll be honest, and this is, like, spoiler alert, there was a point where I was literally one mouse click away from selling it.
Wow.
And it was because of her, because of Lisa, that we are still in business today, that we still own it. She, there's a long story behind it, because for a while there, I was spending 50, 60, 70 hours a week here. Now, she not unusually, but she comes in on Sundays and usually stays for a few hours. Yesterday, she stayed all day. She did a 12-hour shift, didn't intend to, but she did. But ordinarily, that's pretty much the only time that she's in during the week, is that shift, unless something comes up, knock on wood, nothing does. Me, typically, I'm here today. It's a Monday, we're closed. I'm here doing maintenance. I'm here with getting the cash receipts and taking them to the bank. And then I'm here Friday mornings where I do the same thing. We do that twice a week. and I talk with the staff a little bit, but I'm mainly behind the scenes from a finance operations perspective, and she's more from an HR people thing. But we both love interacting with customers, with guests, as we refer to them. But yeah, that's kind of where we are. Yeah, I was that again. I lost track of the question because it was important to tell you that there was a point where I thought maybe this isn't worth it. But the question was like how going from zero to, this whole thing.
Exactly.
So we both worked, like I worked at a pizza joint. I delivered pizza. I worked in a pizza joint. I was, at the register in the back. Like I started off washing dishes and cleaning bathrooms, like all that. And then again, with words from my mom and other words that people I'm sure have heard themselves, like if you're going to do anything, do it right. Do it with all your, the best intentions, all your effort, all your attention. Don't half-ass it. Right. And so that was recognized by the owner, and I moved up until I was like managing on Sundays, like, when I was still in high school. You know what I mean? Like, and did it, I think I did it a couple of years when I came back from college, maybe once or twice, whatever. But I did have sort of restaurant experience. Right. Lisa was a waitress, a server back in the day in college.
So y'all were veterans. Yeah, y'all were veterans.
Yes, but that's just a taste. Like, when you deliver pizza or make a couple of pies or take some, money over the register or serve some people like Lisa did, and you're done at the end of the day, You count your tips, you get your pay on Friday or whatever, and that's it. When you're an owner, we are never not thinking about this place. We are never not working on this place, never, even on vacations. At least you still are thinking about it. So it is a totally different thing. And yes, there are a ton of things that now are almost like muscle memory in terms of permits and, requirements and food handling standards and all that stuff, like that are almost like, yeah, we just do them. But it is a lot.
Yeah.
Put it that way. It's a lot.
A lot. But is it worth the autonomy and the dream that y'all now have?
Is it worth it?
Yes. Is it worth it? Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, the fact that we have what's worth it, along with that autonomy, and this is part of the reason, again, why I want to do it, is like I've always been interested in building things. I was in film for a long time, and I loved, like, there was one part of, this is old school before digital, like I was doing film with actual, like, 16 and 35 millimeter film, like actual film in your hand that you could touch. And like, there's a point where you have to sync up the sound, which is recorded separately, and the visual, it's not video, it was film. And you have to like put them together. It's called, syncing your tracks. And it's done. That's why you have that little clapper or whatever. So you could manually get those two audio and picture, not video, picture tracks together. And it's a very like boring and tedious exercise. And I would love it. I would go into editing suites. I started in college doing it before I went to film school. Like when I would go into like the editing suite because we were doing a documentary. I'd go in there after dinner, like around like 8 o'clock, and I wouldn't come back to my dorm until like 6 a.m. Wow. And I didn't mind it at all. I loved it. I loved like being able to look at it when I was done, seeing these all strips of film hanging, saying like, I made that. And then I'm going to turn that into a movie. Yeah. And so carrying that over, that went into my, when I made TV commercials and ad campaigns and everything, I liked having something that I could look at and say like, I did this. And that's what I want to do here. Like I'm very much into marketing and branding, creating a brand from nothing, nurturing it like we have, and creating something that, 8 years ago did not exist at all, and now is like an integral part of this community and like a mainstay. That's pretty awesome. So is it worth it in that respect? Yeah. Financially, like that's always something you're working on. Right. But to say like, we made this, that is an incredible experience. So yes, worth it.
Love that. And I feel the exact same way about Black Wall Street, the board game, and Play Black Wall Street, the brand that we've been able to build. Like the money is definitely an added bonus, but to be able to say like, this was an idea that was in my head, and now anyone can come up and just bite this burger, see this logo, go to my website and be a part of that dream is an amazing feeling.
Yeah,
right?
It is.
So can you talk to us about the brand of Bovine? And I'm trying to think, because you have this even on your website when you read like the about us, like, oh, I know what you're thinking, not just another burger joint, right? Because there's burger places everywhere. But what makes Bovine different? Whether it's the customer service, whether it's the meat, whether it's the vision that you have, what really makes Bovine stand out, bar none, against the other burgers?
Well, all of that in a way, but the way we like to describe it, and this is taking a page kind of from Zappos in a way. It's like we are a hospitality company that happens to sell burgers. Is the way we describe ourselves.
Oh, break that
Um,
down.
yeah, we are about the experience people have. Now, listen, it's about meeting people where they are. That's not just a cliche. It's true. There are people that come in here and they just want to stuff some meat in their face hole and get out, and that's cool. We can absolutely help with that. We have the tools, we have the technology. That's cool. But there are other people.
Tools, we have the technology.
But there are other people that are looking for a relationship, especially since we built a bar. We have a bar here for the last year and change. We've had a liquor license for 2+. There's some people that are really looking for connection, and we are happy to offer that. Like, we are part of this community, and eating is something that is very fundamental to who we are. Like, to babies, it's the equivalent of love, right? I mean, so the act of doing this, it can be a very social thing. And we cater to that. Like, we talk about it on our website, like, welcome guests like family, but it's not like treat you like family. It's different. Like, we welcome you like in the familiar sense, but treat you like a guest and treat you in the way that, you know, you're looking for. Like, that's not just being a chameleon. That's like being respectful of who you are and what you're looking for. And we're willing to meet you there. So it's a hospitality company that happens to sell burgers. And then the other thing is, so hospitality is one thing, and service execution is another. Like, a lot of people conflate service into that hospitality, which is more of the how, and the service execution, which is sort of like, how did it run like a machine? Like, did it get there on time? Was it the right order? Like, you know, all that. That's the difference between hospitality and service execution. And one of our things is, like, we focus on hospitality, like we talked about, because that's what's in sort of the elevator pitch there. But the other thing is service, and making sure that that the product is quality. Like, yes, it's a very unique blend. It's very different. But for us, that's almost like cost of entry, table stakes. Like, we would expect no less. Like, we're not going to give you crappy quality. We're not looking to make a couple dollars because we're giving you, like, you know, some frozen burgers from the supermarket and marking it up a bunch and just saying, hey, look what we did. No, like, it's top quality stuff. Like, it's 100% certified Angus beef. It's a unique blend that no one else has, we think, in the state, that is just scrumptious. And that's, again, table stakes. What we're about is in terms of service, because not ultimately, but inevitably, something is going to go wrong. No one is perfect. This world is not perfect. Everyone just look at your TV, look outside your door. Like, there are imperfections that abound. The question is, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to adjust to that? So service recovery is one of the most important things we do. I have a web contact form on our website. Anyone who does an online order, if there's they give us a rating. If there's any issue, like, I reach out to that person and say, like, give me more detail. Let me know what was going on. Or if it was just blatantly obvious, then I talk to them about it, and I will do what's required to resolve it. Sometimes proactively, you know, I will, like, say, like, I'm sorry that, you know, X, Y, or Z happened. Here's a $10, you know, digital gift card. Use this on your next visit. Well, we've addressed this with our staff, or we'll do better next time, or we will take that into consideration. Whatever it is, hear them out. Honestly, hear them out, and then, you know, that would be, you know, that it's unexpected. It's a surprise and delight moment for them. And a lot of times when those negatives have happened, it's turned into a customer for life. It's like, wow, that was totally unexpected. I didn't think, like, I was just letting you know because, like, you know, this happened once or twice, and I just thought you should know. I wasn't expecting a gift card, or I didn't think the owner would reach out to me or so. But no, absolutely, I'm going to, because it makes sense, because I'm looking to build those relationships too.
Yeah, I've never heard that concept before, but I love that concept of, you said service recovery. Do you mind giving people what your quote unquote definition of service recovery is? And at what point did you learn and implement that? Is that something that y'all did from the beginning, or did certain things happen to where you're like, hey, we need to figure out, one, our rating, and two, how do we get those customers that had a bad service experience to come back?
So it actually started before Bovine. So back when I was at that, you know, insurance company, I was part of a group that created this thing called neighborhood care. And what this was this is before Obamacare, before people could buy their own, you know, direct health insurance. We set up locations throughout New York City where anyone could come in, and we would help them with anything that was getting in the way of their health and well-being. You didn't have to be a subscriber to the insurance company. You just had to live in the community. And you would come in, and we would do anything we could to help you out. Now, we weren't just throwing money at people or anything, but, like, people would come in and say, like, look, you know, I can't afford my prescriptions and my heating bill. And we would find resources in the community that would help them with their utility payments, like that are available that they didn't know about. Or we would help them, like, manage their prescriptions so that they could afford things, or all the kinds of stuff. Like, it was all about caring for the person. So that service mentality was based on Danny Meyer. You probably heard of him, Shake Shack. All right. Other restaurants that he's owned, he's an amazing restaurateur. He has a book called Setting the Table. And a lot of these concepts are alluded to or directly, spelled out there. So it's definitely something, Setting the Table, which I have to admit, I've never read the book cover to cover. Like, I've had, my business associate, one of my business associates, he has, and he actually consulted with us when we built Bovine, but it was all about developing this sort of service mentality that was going to be above and beyond what else, everything else that's out there in the world. And service recovery is about the fact that, yes, there are going to be issues. And the question is, how are you going to address them? Are you going to do it in a positive way? Are you going to do it in a way that's going to turn a negative and spin it into something even better than if everything went well? Right? That's what you're looking to do. And that's what other companies that have excelled at this, like, I think Amazon does it to a certain extent. I think Zappos actually did it extremely well. Probably before they were acquired, but maybe after. I don't know. I haven't bought shoes from Zappos in a long time, so I don't even know what's going on there. But they exemplified this whole notion of service recovery, and that they're going to do whatever is required to. I guess what succinctly describes it is they describe themselves as happy people making people happy. And that's what you're trying to do. Like, and sometimes you're going to fail. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes there's no chance of service recovery. And sometimes, honestly, the customer is not always right. Sometimes they're very wrong, but there are ways to tell customers they're wrong, that they're wrong, without being disrespectful, without like dismissing them. Like, no, but this isn't the way it's done, or that's not how we do things. And I'm very sorry about that. I acknowledge how they feel, but work towards resolution. And a resolution that's a win-win for both sides, and try not to even be on different sides, and be on the same side of it. And that's a focus for us. And that's something that, like I said, every day I look at those comments. We don't always respond to every comment on Yelp or Google or anything like that, but sometimes we do. And sometimes when it's, warranted, we take a very firm stand that, like, the customer is wrong. There was one thing that just happened where we basically told a customer that his words were cruel. And my wife wanted to add "do better" at the end of it, but I was like, maybe that's a little much. But she, we wrote it together and basically called the guy out that he's unreasonable, and that's it. But there've been plenty other times when we've accepted accountability when maybe it wasn't on us, but it made more sense to, for the ongoing relationship, to take more accountability for us than put it on the guest.
But another thing that I saw that y'all do a little bit different is the dine and donate.
Dine to donate, yes.
Dine to donate. Can you talk about why y'all started that and how important just community engagement is for Bovine?
Well, again, this is another one of those win-win kind of situations. So this is one of the things we started doing very early on. Because we have two kids that are one has already gone through the school system here, and the schools tended to be the ones that did this the most, but we do this for other groups where any nonprofit group that's looking to raise money for a cause, an issue, whatever it is, invite your people in. If they say, I'm here for, the Monroe Township volleyball team fundraiser or whatever, they need new uniforms or whatever it is, then 10% of that bill will go directly back to the team. And we've expanded it so that it includes people getting delivery from us or takeout orders, not just dining in here, so that even if you just, I'm just too tired, I can't make it out to this event at Bovine, just get it delivered and it'll still count. We've done that, and it's been incredible. But it's also a win-win, because a lot of times when these groups advertise hey, come support us at the Dine to Donate at Bovine, there's inevitably someone's like, I've never been, I've never heard of it. Even after 7-8 years or whatever it is. And so that's a new customer. So is it worth just looking dollars and cents, right? Is it worth effectively a 10% discount to acquire one customer, 5, 10, 20 that I didn't have before? I'd say absolutely. Back up the truck. Why not? And it helps them. They get a check. And a lot of times what we'll do is, the 10% comes in, and then Lisa and I will round it up a little bit. Just say, here you go. Make it instead of $150, $180, here's $200. No big deal, but percentage wise, it is a big deal. But hey, here you go. So it's been something that's been very helpful. We had to because things got so busy, we now only can do it one day a week. We can only do it on Wednesdays because we have events on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Our weekends, Fridays and Saturdays are crazy. Thank you very much. And Sundays are hit or miss. Sometimes they're a little bit on the slower side, and sometimes they're out of control crazy. So we don't feel comfortable doing one of these on a Sunday where service might suffer. So Wednesday is the day we do it. And right now, I think we're booked through May and part of June. So, but yeah, it's a great thing for the community, and it helps us get exposed to new customers.
Love it. Love it. All right, y'all. If y'all are tuning in, we got Marc Warner from Bovine Burgers out in New Jersey. If you have ever thought about opening up your own restaurant, your own burger spot, barbecue spot, soul food, anything like that, but you weren't sure the steps to do it, or you just needed an inspirational story to get you started, this is that story. If you have any questions, you have any comments, make sure y'all leave it below. And of course, make sure you like and subscribe. Now, what I want to do, I want to shift gears just a little bit, Brother Marc.
Okay.
And I want to go back to some hard lessons that y'all had to learn in this process. And if you can give folks just like 2 hard lessons, maybe it's as you were trying to open, maybe it's once you opened and something that you didn't realize you needed, whether it was a license, whether it was how to acquire new customers. But what are 2 just real tough lessons y'all had to learn in your early stages of opening up Bovine?
Wow. Okay. The first one that comes to mind, yeah, and this was a mistake. The first thing that comes to mind is be careful who you let in terms of employees. No one is going to respect or love your business like you do. No one. They can't. It's almost like no one can love your child as much as you do. It's not possible. They may like them a lot, may even get them gifts, but they will never love them like you do. They would not sacrifice themselves for your kid, because honestly, this is our 3rd child, 4th if you include the dog, and they grow up like that, and you know, it starts off as a toddler and grows up a little. Like I'd say ours is now a thriving adolescent. But you can't, a thriving adolescent, not quite an adult, but a thriving adolescent. And I can't trust just anybody to supervise my child. And we were burned by, there have been people who have come in and, you know, and even talking a great game and, you know, feeling like, okay, this is good. And then you kind of look at actions or maybe even look at video cameras and you see like, you know what? They talk a big game, but they're not really there. And they really don't have the best interests of the company or the business at heart. And learn that very early on. So that's one part. That's one thing in terms of a people thing. Another people thing that was probably one of the biggest mistakes is you have to focus on redundancy. You have to have a backup plan and a backup plan for the backup plan and a backup plan for the backup plan. You have to, because any piece, the restaurant industry especially, there are so many systems involved here. It's not just like, hey, you just fire up the griddle and you put the burger on, it comes off and everything's good. There are so many like technical, like my tech stack is ridiculously complex. Like I have a tech vendor that comes in because, you know, if I lose internet, I'm in trouble. Like no credit cards, no like, you know, audio over my speakers, no TVs, you know, no, oh my God, like just, it's ridiculous how important internet is and power, don't get me wrong, or whatever, but plumbing. There have been times where I had water coming out through the floor. And, you know, right as we were about to start business, like, it's just crazy. Like, so you need to have plans, you need to have ways, you need to be able to think on your feet. But I think the most important thing about this is like from a personnel standpoint, like you can't just have one guy who knows how to do the grill, because that actually happened in the beginning, because we opened our doors, we had our friends and family night, everything was going great. And our cook, who was going to work full time as a cook or whatever, at about 6:30, he just walked away from the griddle and started washing dishes. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, this isn't for me. I'm like, are you kidding me? Let's get through this shift and then we can talk about it. He's like, And then, so luckily one of our friends and family who was there, who owned like 3 delis, but also had a main job at like a very well-known telecommunications company, took off his suit jacket, put on an apron and went back and worked our griddle for the rest of the night and said, Oh yeah, that's a good friend. And then he said, like, and I'll work tomorrow. I'm not working tomorrow, so I'll come do your griddle tomorrow. Because my guy said, like, I got to think about whether I'm gonna, continue this job. And I was like, how much time do you need? He said, I'll let you know Monday. I'm like, it's Wednesday. Like, what do you expect me to do?
What?
Like, I'm like giving you time to think about it. So we had to figure out what to do. So
Wow.
my friend trained me how to use a griddle, like a flat top. I'd never cooked on a flat top before. I'd made my burgers at home in a cast iron skillet. Never a flat top. Like, I knew what to buy. I bought the equipment, but I'd never worked it. I learned quick. I was on that griddle for, I'd say, every day, both shifts, the lunch and dinner shift every day for 1.5 to 2 weeks. I can't remember. It was a very, very scary time. And I can remember sitting there flipping burgers. And I was thinking, like, never have I worked so hard for so little in my entire life.
Yeah.
But it was a good experience for me to understand, like, what goes into that job. And that was important too, because I've worked, I think we have like 6 stations. I've worked 5 of them, including the griddle. I've never worked one of them. But I've worked them all, and so I know what goes into it. I know how to do things, and you need to be able to do that. But again, going back, I'm getting off topic, but having redundancy. So if that griddle cook, I should have had a backup griddle cook. So if he stepped off the line, Joe could walk in and start doing that.
Yeah.
So that's really important. And so that'll even get, if we want to talk about like how my wife and I kind of separate, division of labor and stuff, like we can talk a lot about that too, because she's in charge of HR. That's one of her jobs.
Yeah. And is that how it started off? Like when y'all first got started, you were over logistics and she was over people in HR, or was there a learning curve there?
No, the way it started off was, because I had quit my full-time job to work on this. She was still doing her full-time job. And so I was here every day. And in fact, we used to grind our own meat. Like, I would just get sides of meat and I was grinding them in our cooler. And I would do that after this close of business. Like, I wasn't leaving here until like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then starting up again at like 9, 10 o'clock the next day. It was just too much. But she had the great idea, like, we should go to our butcher that was providing these sides of meat and have them grind our patty to our specifications, which we did, which saved us a lot of time. She was very smart. She was far enough out, and that's to the point here. She was far enough away that she could see the forest for the trees. Like, she could be like, why are you doing that when we could do this? I was like, okay, great. And so usually her involvement was, I would call her when things got so crazy. I'm like, 911, we need help. Come help. And then usually, and this is the maddening part, is like she would, she'd be at home, she'd put on her bovine shirt, she'd get in the car, she'd drive over here, which is about, 11 minutes away exactly, actually. And she'd walk in and the rush would be over. And she'd be like, why did you call me? It's like, it looked crazy. I didn't think we were going to make it through. But over time, she has become much more involved. One of the things that I just was finding it hard to do was the weekly schedule. And so she took it on. It was like, great. And then like that, but I think even before that, she was already working on the hiring and firing, because that was one of the most important things we did. And I guess it's sort of related to the mistakes, but also in terms of like, what are some positive things that we've done, is that she effectively cleaned house. Is that in the beginning, like, I won't say we were desperate, but there were points where it was like, we need a warm body here. And it's like, you know what? No, a warm body doesn't do it. And even if we have to let you go and it's going to hurt us and we're going to have to work in there more, we're going to do it, because you're toxic.
Yeah.
You're affecting the good ones, the employees that are trying to do something positive. You're having.
What are those signs? What are those signs? Because I think, and we've been in that situation before, where it's like, okay, we just need somebody. So we hire in a rush, and then we see the culture shift. We see how they're impacting people. But from your perspective, what were the signs that this was a terrible hire? We need to let this person and that person go?
Dishonesty. Dishonesty. And it doesn't have to be like a major thing. It's about being untruthful. I was just going to say lying, but being untruthful, even about the smallest things, is a telltale sign. Like, I was there at like, 2 o'clock. Well, what time are you really there? Well, okay, so I was there at 8 o'clock. Well, why'd you say 2? Like, it was 8. Like, it's not, does it impact anything? No, but why did you feel compelled to not just tell the truth? That's the thing. And this actually, part of, like, again, she was the impetus behind cleaning house, but it went back to something that I tried to do in the beginning when we first opened up, but it's now something that we really embrace now. It goes back for me, like for her, I'm sure it's different, but for me, it goes back to when I was in advertising and we were interviewing an agency to work for us. Like I was client side. And we went to this agency and the owner was speaking to us at the pitch meeting. And he said he was proud. He was the most proud about two things. And I took this with me and applied it here and everything. He said, one, we have zero debt on the books. We owe nothing to nobody. We don't owe a thing to anybody. So we are accountable to ourselves and only ourselves. And we'll make decisions for ourselves, not because we have to have money to pay these people that we owe. So that was one. I was like, okay. And he said, and the second thing is I hire people that are good ethically and then happen to be good at their jobs. Because you cannot teach people to be moral. You can't teach people to be honest. You can't teach people just to have a good soul. Yeah. And that is actually what we do is like we hire for the person. We don't hire for the warm body. And we especially don't hire for the technical expertise. I can teach you how to cook a burger. I can teach you how to clean a griddle. I can teach you how to do a boil out on a deep fryer. I can teach you all those things. I can't teach you to be a good person. I can't teach you to treat people with respect. I can't teach you that. So why waste our time and why waste yours? And that was one of the biggest things we ever did was like focus on the person, not That's the good. Technique or experience. Yep.
That's a really good one. All right. So lessons from the Bovine team: hire character, hire the morals, right? Yep. And have redundancies on redundancies for any type of situation that can occur. Another great lesson I think you can walk people through and teach is how you funded and financed your business at the beginning, right? You talked about that rollover for a business startup, I believe, which you're the first person that I've engaged with that's done that. So I'm even like just eager to learn about what that is as well. Can you walk people through high level what that rollover is, what type of account they needed, and how that helped y'all start your business?
Yeah, so this was the game changer. This was probably the thing that said, you know what, we are going to do this because it's a huge investment to open a restaurant. This place that we're in right now, it was an old Subway sandwich location, looked nothing like this. It was a complete gut job. So there was a fair amount of money that was put into this place. A rollover as business startup is almost exactly what it sounds like. In fact, it pretty much is. The idea is instead of getting a small business loan, which is fine, although interest rates now, small business loan is going to cost you. A lot of people do have retirement accounts. We have retirement accounts. I have 401k, an IRA. I had, retirement money in various pockets. And what a rollover as business startup does is it leverages that money to fund your business, but it does it in a way that's different than just cashing them out, which would require taxes on that money and hefty penalties because they're retirement funds that you're not supposed to use until you retire. And I, despite the gray, I'm not ready to retire.
Keep going.
So the way it works is that you create, and I'll just use Bovine as an example because this is exactly how we do it. We created the Bovine Burgers 401k account, right? And so I took all of my IRA, 401k, all those retirement accounts, and I rolled them over, which there's no penalty to do that, right? I rolled them all over into the Bovine Burgers 401k plan.
All right. So I want to stop. I want to pause right there.
Yeah.
The Bovine Burger 401k plan. How were you able to set that up? Did you need to be an LLC, an S corp, a corporation? How did you set up that?
Good question. This whole product, this whole thing can only be done if you organize the company as a C corporation, not an S corp, not an LLC. You can't do it that way. It has to be a C corp. The reasons behind that, the taxes, like I'm not an ERISA lawyer, but we did engage with a company called Guidant Financial, and they are amazing. They walk you through this process. They set everything up, and there's an annual filing you have to do to keep everything cut and dried and on the up and up with the government. They're well worth I think it's like $150 a month that you pay them. That's it.
Okay.
To access, and so depending on how much money you're looking to roll over, if you're just looking to roll over 10 grand, don't do it. It's not worth it. If you're looking to roll over, something in six figures, yes, this is worth it. So going back to the process. So you set up the Bovine Burgers 401k plan, right?
Mhm.
And it's got all this, this money from all these various retirement vehicles. And so instead of, buying mutual funds or equities or CDs or any of the stuff that you would usually put in a 401k plan or any retirement plan, Bovine Burgers 401k plan bought the shares of Bovine Burgers Inc.
Mm.
So on paper, the owners of Bovine Burgers, where I'm sitting today, is like 1% Marc and Lisa and 99% Bovine Burgers 401k plan. They own the majority of the shares. So when and if we do sell, the proceeds of the sale go to the Bovine Burgers 401k plan as for their shares, in addition to whatever we be paid, since we're the officers of the company that facilitated the sale, right?
Mhm.
So we get paid out there. And then once that money goes back to Bovine Burgers 401k plan, I can then terminate that and roll that over into an IRA. And at no point in that whole process did we pay a dime in taxes or a dime in penalties.
This is so genius. Okay, I got another question for you.
Sure.
So you were able to buy Bovine Inc. stock. Does that mean, does your company need to be public, or somehow
No.
you were able to just get it listed?
No. It's private shares. It's just so you can do that. Like, we did it with our bar. Like, we have investors in our bar and they have shares in the bar. It's just a private sale of shares. It's not for public trading. There's no SEC thing to worry about here. It's totally legit this way. Yeah. So it just bought all, that's part of why it has to be a C corporation. So all the shares of stock, basically, or shares of the company. It's probably not even fair to say stock. That's where I'm a little out of my depth, but basically shares in the company. The 401k plan owns those shares in the company.
Got
Now,
it.
effectively, that the Bovine Burgers 401k plan is for my benefit, for the benefit of Marc Warner. So ultimately, I own the 401k plan that owns Bovine.
Right.
But that when I discovered this, I'm not the first one to discover, but not many people were talking about it when I did this. Like, this was game changing for us. Like this, like this is just an amazing way to leverage our retirement. Now, that's just not all sunshine and rainbows. So the thing about this, and this was a plus for us, but it's up to your viewers, everyone else who's looking at this, to decide for themselves. Do you think you're a better bet than buying shares of Amazon or Nvidia or something like that? Are you a better bet than that? Because if you don't think you're a better bet than investing in those things, then just take your money. You can't do this as an investment thing, but invest your current retirement savings in those stocks. It's a lot less work. You're not worried about setting up fire suppression systems and all kinds of stuff that you have to deal with here. Like, you just put it in and just look at your account, and sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. God, hope there's not a crash, and your return is your return. But if you think you're a better bet, and that was, again, back to the autonomy thing we talked about and everything else, like, I felt like I was a better bet. Me and my wife were a better bet than shares of Chase or shares of GE or shares of anything. Like, so this is our retirement plan. Like, you're sitting in our retirement plan. And so far, like, depending on how you look at return, I think we're doing at least competitive with the market, if not better. Probably better.
Bet on you, y'all.
Yep.
I love that. Take your retirement. And this is a very interesting strategic play for folks that have a solid retirement. You've been working for 20, 30 years, and maybe you're looking to make that shift. Look into, do your own research, right? The rollover as business startup. I'm definitely be doing some research and see how I can start planting those seeds for 10 years, 20 years down the line to be able to have that $150,000, $200,000 of seed that can now go into your own business. I love that idea. Okay.
Correct.
I feel like there's more genius in you. Look, can I get maybe, because that's a genius move by you and the wife, Lisa. Can I get maybe one more strategic move that you think has helped you all grow this business or brand? And this can be a move that is specific for restaurant owners, or this can be just a general business acumen move that you think is great for any business out there. And to give you additional context and time,
Okay.
We our audience is mostly couplepreneurs, right? So these are married couples or engaged couples that are growing a business and they want to build wealth together. They want to leave generational wealth to the next generation of their kids or their family, and they're just looking for wisdom, looking for guidance along the way, including myself and the Queen. We're looking for wisdom and guidance along the way. So one more piece of genius from the Bovine team.
Well, this is the most recent development is we are looking into franchising. So when we first opened this place, and people have weird perceptions of what, restaurant owners, like, I think some people think like, oh, wow, for every dollar that comes in, a restaurant owner is making like 50% of that or some craziness, which is not true in the slightest. If a restaurant is making 5-6 cents on the dollar, they're doing pretty good. Because the expenses are so high. Yeah, it's crazy. But be that as it may, like, people would come in here in the beginning and say, oh, this place is a gold mine. Like, you should franchise or you should open another locations, which is a hard no on opening other locations. We are not looking to increase our operational responsibilities. This one is enough. Like, 2 kids, go to 2 kids to 4 kids to 8 kids. No, thank you. Like, I'm not looking to do that. But franchising, yes. Because basically now you are finding like-minded individuals to come in. They own it. It is theirs. It is their investment in building it out. So they have a vested interest in this, making sure it does well. But they have the advantage of we've already hit a ton of landmines. We're going to help you avoid those. Like, we have established processes and we've made the mistakes to get to them. You don't have to do that anymore. And we have our goodwill and our brand that we didn't have when we first started. So in the beginning, people were saying you should franchise, and we definitely said no, even on that point. Forget about opening new corporate locations. Like, we didn't want to franchise because we weren't ready. And to this day, I'll be honest with you, we learn something every day, which is as it should be. If you think you've got it all figured out, then that's a guarantee that you don't have it all figured out. But we're now, I think we've reached a critical juncture. In fact, I know we have, because we're making the investment. We reached a critical point in our development where we think, yes, now we feel comfortable replicating this. And we're going to make sure, and we're going to grow slowly. One of my mantras is go slow to go fast. So we are going to make sure that the first 2 franchisees, 2 to 4, whatever it is, that we will not necessarily hold their hands, but we will make ourselves available to them. And we understand what they're going through, because we're not so far removed from when you first open one of these places. And we will help them be successes. Like, that is in our interest as much as it's in theirs. And we want them to be involved with us at the ground floor and build those relationships just like we build with our guests. So we work with a franchise consultant, and they put it a great way. Like, franchising is a get-rich-slow scheme. And it is, because like the franchise fees you pay in the beginning are really just to offset sunk costs, like the costs we're putting in right now. And it's the ongoing royalty is where you make your money. But that requires that the franchisee be successful. Otherwise, those royalties will stop. So it's in our interest to work in their interest. And I think we decided that we are now at the point where we're ready to do it. And that's why we are actively investing in and working on the ability to sell franchises, definitely before the end of 2024, but we're hoping by the end of the summer, we'll be ready to start selling.
Congrats. That's a major step towards building the Warner Kingdom and becoming even more autonomous, right? Having that even more power and agency. So what is the, let's say, 20-year vision of Bovine? Is it y'all want to be the official burger of New Jersey? Are y'all going to come out to California and compete with In-N-Out and Five Guys? What is the 20-year vision of this retirement plan?
Well, it's funny. Like, we talked about, like, what is kind of making it, what was the definition of making it? We talked about autonomy, but one thing that we didn't talk about, that Lisa and I didn't talk about, is we didn't go into this with an exit strategy. We just didn't. We didn't have it. And that you call that a mistake. Happy to admit it as being a mistake. Like, so honest answer is we're not sure. I think we both agree we wanted to have something that would be a legacy, that if our kids wanted to take it on, they could, but by no means would we force this on them. Our son has worked here, like, before he went off to college. He did quite a few shifts. Our daughter is now thinking about working here when she's old enough. She'll be 16 next year. So
Nice.
you have to be 16 to work here because of the liquor license.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, part of me, like, and I won't speak for Lisa, but I mean, 20 years, I don't see myself doing this, to be honest with you. I don't want to be in my 70s doing what I'm doing today. No, that's not. But I do see it being potentially differently, that, they have to call the founder and ask about X, Y, and Z, or one of the founders between Marc and Lisa about X, Y, and Z. And we're still, involved from a distance. I mean, Chef Ramsay is not, worried about, the dinner shift in terms of who's going to come in to work, like at one of his locations. Like he's far removed from that. And that's where I'd like us to be, is that if we're still like the owners of it, that we are very much far removed of the, from the bovine day-to-day operations of the empire. The other thing, honestly, is, and this has been talked about with our franchising consultant, is a sale to private equity. And a lot of their customers, their clients, that's where they ended up, is like once you reach a certain critical mass, you attract the attention of private equity firms, and they want to buy it out and add it to their portfolio. And because, you've done all the hard work.
Yeah.
Now it's just about, like, leveraging some debt and growing it and making it bigger and making a lot more money, which that they exceed at that, but they are not good at this stuff like what we're doing right now. They're in the trenches, in the weeds, building it. And we're not on their radar. One location, we won't be on their radar with 10 locations. Maybe after that, maybe someone will be like, they've got a nice footprint.
Yeah.
Let's buy them out. So within 20 years, that better happen. Or, I don't know what's going to happen. Like COVID happened. Oh, who knows what else is going to happen? But, that I do envision, though, not my fantasy, but my hope is that it does become something large with multiple locations, that maybe one day when my daughter's in school, or even my son who's in college now, they can say, one of their friends say, hey, let's go to that new burger place that opened down the road, Bovine. And they're like, yeah, I know that place.
Very well.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be a lot of fun.
So you kind of already answered my last question, but I want to bring it back to light just in case, because me and the Queen, we have an ongoing debate, and I am very adamant that our kids are going to work for and with our company in whatever range, right? Whatever passion that they have, like we'll create a division, we'll create a sub business under it. But I just feel like it's important to keep the genius and keep the talent within the family. She's like, no, if they want to work for Apple, if they want to work for In-N-Out, if they want to work for Bovine, let them. I'm like, no, play Black Wall Street all the way. How do you and your wife feel about, this being truthfully a family-owned business and legacy for multiple generations? And how do you navigate your children working for the company or working for competitors?
Right. So like I said, my son worked here, worked in the kitchen, worked out front. We didn't force him to. Maybe we pushed him in that direction a little bit, but we didn't force him. Our daughter was adamant that she didn't want to work here, but she did she helped out when it was crazy one night. And my wife just said, help me, because she was here with her, and she did. And now, now that she's, thinking like, ooh, I can make some money from this and get my nails done and this and that, blah, blah. So, she probably will want to do it. But to your bigger question, though, like, no, if they want to work in it, they can. But even if they do, like, I'm of the opinion that you should go out and work somewhere else first, like in a real jobby job, right? Because I've known people at companies where it's a family business and that's the only job they've had. And they have no basis of comparison of what it's like in the corporate world and what it's like to be, the politics of it. I mean, a lot more is virtual now, obviously, than being in an office, but even virtually, there are still politics that are involved in processes and the way, companies do things that aren't the way we do things here or any like there are nuances to every company, like how things run. And I think it's good to get exposure to that. I've been in companies that have been literally toxic. I've been in companies that have been amazing that, like, I can't believe this is like, we make money at this. Like, this is crazy. Like, such a good environment. So I've done the gamut, like big companies, small companies, contractor, freelance. I've done it all. And I think that's helped in building the culture here and what we're about and how we do things, which impacts how you feel about a place. So they're more than welcome to be involved if they want to, but they're not required to. But if they do choose to be involved, I think I'd like them to go somewhere else first. So again, and that's what we see even here with the people that work here. Like, we hire a lot of high school students. Sometimes it's their first time, the first job they've ever had. They have no context for understanding what it's like to work somewhere else. And so they may feel like, oh, I don't get paid enough, or this and that, or how. We are actually one of the most respectful organizations. Like, we don't treat our employees like automatons. Like, we understand they're human beings, but we respect them, but respect is a two-way street. Respect us and we respect you. We will trust you until you give us a reason not to. And I've seen other business owners that are very jaded and very angry and assume the worst about everything. And we, even though it's tempting to be like that, we do our best not to, because we want to create this positive, incredible place that people want to work. And a lot of the older people that work in that 20s, 30s, they I won't even name names because who knows if they'll see it, but he said that this is the best job he's ever had. And it's not because of the work necessarily, it's because of the people and the culture. And that's amazing, but you can't appreciate it. Like, you can't know heaven if you don't know hell. So that's where I'd end it.
Okay. Really, really good stuff. I know our listeners got tons of value. If you weren't taking notes the first time you were listening, rewind it, take notes. Service recovery, right? Rollover for business startup, redundancies in your business. Like, there was a lot of very key actionable lessons all throughout this show for people that have started a restaurant and trying to grow it, or people that are thinking about starting a restaurant. So definitely make sure y'all go back, take notes, and share this episode with another friend or family member that wants to open up their own burger spot or restaurant in the future. All right. Marc, appreciate you. This was amazing. This was a value treasure chest of gems and wisdom. Any last, call to action for someone who's sitting there? They've thought about a restaurant. They've joked about it, like you and Miss Lisa were joking about it before. Like, what if we do? But they haven't taken any action yet. What would be the one action you think people should take after listening to this episode?
I would say, and it's kind of in line with what you've been saying too, Devon, is like, keep learning. Don't just take this and say, like, I'm ready, let's go. Marc said it, so that must be true. I'm probably wrong. I'm probably wrong about a lot of stuff, or I'm right about it today and it'll be wrong tomorrow. But get as much input as you can from other people. Go to other sources, and you may very well find things that are totally opposite of what I said, and that's fine. Like, it's up to you to sort of weigh everything that comes in and make your own decision as about what you want to do or don't want to do. I was a philosophy major in college, and I think one of the best things I learned as a philosophy major was I know how little I know. And it's really true. And every day I still believe in that. Now, I'm not saying I'm a dummy. I know I'm not a dummy, but I know that there's what I have taken in and what I understand and what I can do is infinitesimal compared to the talent and the knowledge that exists out in the universe. I'm just one person. And if I'm not still learning every day, if I'm not being open to other opinions and thoughts and approaches, then I'm doing myself a disservice. It's important to have a decided point of view. You need to like be, have confidence in what you're doing. At the same time, you need to be receptive to the messages and information that's coming at you all the time, and have a viable filter so you can take what's important, what's useful, and use that, and ignore the things that are negative or work against you. That's up to you. So continue to do your research. Find out more. Like, if this was inspiring in some way, go read Danny Meyer. Go read Setting the Table, or, go talk to another business owner who may have a completely diametrically opposed point of view to what I've said. And that's okay. What works for us, and what works for him or her works for him or her. And that's all right. And another piece of advice is there are multiple paths to get to the same destination. So explore your path.
Love it. When y'all are ready for a location in California, give us a call, give us a text. I'm sure we can find a couple people that love burgers and want to run a high quality, high customer service location for you out here in California. All right.
You'll be my first call.
Love it. Thank you. My dad would be mad about that, but I would appreciate it.
Yeah, whatever. Knucklehead.
Thank y'all so much for tapping into another episode, a juicy, informative, amazing episode of the Melanated Married Millionaires in the Making show. I'm your host, Devon Terrell, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game. Of course, as always, make sure y'all secure the love, make sure y'all secure the marriage, and make sure y'all secure the bag. Peace.
Welcome back to another episode of the Melanated Married Millionaires in the Making show, aka the M4 show. King, where can they go to tap in with us?
Make sure y'all head to the website www.the4show.com. Also tap in with us on IG, on the gram at the M4 Show. And of course, make sure y'all listen to this podcast and share it with a friend that you want to see win.
Now let's get into the
Now, let's get into the show.